I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm willing to work as hard as I can.
There is no past, there's no future, there's just this moment right here.
If I did that, if I can get through that, like, come at me.
Changing how I saw myself, like as a man, not just as an athlete.
It's okay that I struggle. It's okay. That's part of the deal. It's how I respond to it.
Welcome to the Limitless Athlete Podcast. My name is Tom Foxley, founder of Mindset Rx'd and your host. And today I'm going to teach you how to leave your training sessions with zero regrets. You're going to learn how to go all in on workouts when it really counts and lose that disappointed feeling you get when you hold back. If you're like most of the athletes that I speak to who haven't yet started mindset training, you aren't leaving the gym knowing that you've crushed workouts with that satisfaction. You probably feel disappointed, frustrated, maybe you've plateaued, your sessions are probably filled with negative self-talk, and so the fun has disappeared and the growth inevitably stopped. It's time to go all in on your training sessions. Training, and let's face it, life has never been about half-assing it, has it? You've got one shot at this life, and to become the athlete and the person you have the potential to become, you have to go all in. If you want to make your life count, you've got to go all in. So here's what we're going to cover today. Why you need to seek out hardship, a 2-minute positivity tool that transforms training sessions, flipping the script when shit gets tough, and becoming the type of person who thrives under hardship. So, number 1, seeking out more hardship in your life. One of my first major revelations in mindset was that I shouldn't be trying to avoid hardship, which sounds obvious at the time, but at the time I was it sounds obvious now, but at the time I was desperately trying to avoid difficulty. Instead, I should be seeking out as much hardship as I could possibly handle. And that new approach changed my life, and it changed the results I got in training too. I became more resilient. My mindset became stronger. I became more positive under challenging situations. Surprisingly to me at the time, the skills that I learned through seeking out hardship, they eventually became essential in everything that I did in all areas of my life. When you perform rewarding behaviors, your body releases dopamine, a motivation and reward neurochemical or brain chemical. When your brain is flooded with dopamine, you're more likely to repeat whatever released that dopamine again. That's one of the reasons that your phone, sugar, and sex become way more attractive to you. It's the dopamine release. There is a hack though. By telling yourself that effort is a good thing and that you're taking yourself close to the goal, you can encourage a dopamine dump into your brain, even if the thing that you're doing doesn't naturally release much dopamine, aka if it's hard, like effort. So you make doing difficult things the goal, or the more you make doing difficult things the goal, and you will make more of it in the future and crush more workouts. This is something I've applied time and again with my athletes. I encourage them to go towards hardship rather than shying away from it. I said it so much for a long while that embrace hardship was a motto that underpinned the business. So that's the dopamine effort piece. Secondly, the 2-minute positivity hack. Every week, I speak with athletes who tell me about the self-talk in their training sessions. It's like, man, I suck at heavy lifts. I'm just so shit at this. I'll never get this technique dialed in. I just feel so scared. The common theme in all of these cases is the wonderful negative outlook. Negativity sucks the soul out of performances. Sure, once in a while, you build up so much self-loathing that you surprise yourself with a good performance, but most often you tell yourself you're weak and that just makes you more weak. You cannot and definitely should not just say positive affirmations over the top of negative self-talk. The conscious mind will never overpower the unconscious mind, at least consistently anyway. It might do for a very short amount of time, but definitely not in the long run. But positivity and self-belief is something which can be trained. You don't do this during the session, you do this at the end of the session. When you're packing your gear away, grab a notepad or the notes on your phone and write down as many things as possible which wins. A win is anything that moved the needle toward being a better version of you, made you feel proud of yourself, or helped you overcome a mindset challenge. This is called an AMWAP, as many wins as possible. When you begin to count your wins and not your scars, you're going to find a little more positivity in your training and you'll start to believe in yourself a bit more, which means you commit even more. So that's the AMWAP, 2-minute positivity hack. 3, sticking points. There was a sweltering day in my office and one of the hottest days of the year, and I was speaking to Chris Hinshaw, and he made such an obvious point that it blew my mind because I hadn't really considered it before. Chris is a world-class endurance coach for top-level CrossFit athletes, and I was interviewing him on the Limitless Athlete podcast. And before every training session with his athletes, Chris encourages the athletes to identify the sticking point, which is what the athlete determines is going to be the hardest or toughest part of the hour or two to follow. Together, they make a plan to overcome it, which sounds simple, right? But how often do you actually do this? And more appropriately, how often does a workout take you by surprise? You're doing fine, and then boom, you're floored. You need to identify in advance what will be most challenging, then come up with a plan for how you're going to deal with it. By imagining this process and then writing it down, you'll actually be visualizing successfully overcoming the hardship too, and it's a win-win. I use this approach I did this like 52k ultra marathon in the Welsh Mountains, and I knew it'd be about 45k in with a massive climb still to come that I was going to be at my weakest. So I identified this point and left an extra energy journal for this moment. And I also I knew I was going to remind myself like what percentage of the day I had left ahead of me and inherently like what I'd already overcome. And just knowing this in advance and having that there was enough to get me through this ultra and actually do incredibly well. So there we have, like, you've got to identify the sticking point too. 4, building character on top of fitness. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on earth when he wrote his private diary, which eventually became Meditations. The Emperor of Rome started this personal journey with a list of character traits he admired in others and that he picked up from his mentors. There's a quote here: "From my grandfather Verus, I learned good morals and the government of my temper. From the reputation and remembrance of my father, modesty and a manly character. From my mother, piety and beneficence," if that's how you say it, "and abstinence, not only from evil deeds, but from evil thoughts, and further simplicity in my way of living, far removed from the habits of the rich." Aurelius, and this is back to me, Aurelius, with all his importance, power, and responsibility, knew it's his character, not his skill, which was responsible for his position in life. As the journal goes on, Aurelius speaks of the challenges that he faced and the ways that he practiced the character he needed to overcome the difficulty. And just like Aurelius' strenuous meetings, every training session is your opportunity to forge your character. Identify who you need to become to attain your goals and practice becoming that person. It's a constant process which you're always practicing, because it's character that creates success, not luck, talent, or even skill.